everyone, and welcome to the Lesson 5.2 Domain and Range video. Up at my top, I have a mapping diagram of a function, and we know it's a function because every input only has one output. We're going to talk about domain and range today, and I already have the definitions written out for you. Domain is the set of all inputs for a function. So domain would be this first circle, all of the inputs. So for this example, the domain would be the numbers 1, 2, and 3. Now range is the set of all my outputs. So my range would be the second circle, all of the y values, all of the outputs. So for my range for this function, it would be the numbers 4, 5, and 6. So let's practice identifying domain and range. Looking at number 1, I know that domain is all of my inputs. So if I'm going to list all of my inputs, that would be the number 7, 3, and 5. And I know that range is all of my outputs. And so those are the values 6, -2, and 1. Let's try number 2. Even though it's not written, I know the first circle are my inputs, and that is domain. So my domain would consist of the numbers 2, 6, and 8. And I know my second circle are all of my outputs. That is my range. So my range would be the numbers 4 and -3. What I would like you to do is pause the video and try identifying the domain and range for 3 and 4 on your own. So pause this video, try identifying the domain and range for 3 and 4. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you tried identifying the domain and range for 3 and 4. We know that domain is all of my inputs. My inputs are my x values. So I want to know, what are all of the x values that are on this graph? Well, this point right here is at the x value 2. So 2 is in my domain. This point right here is at the x value 3. 3 is in my domain. And this point right here is at the x value 5. So 5 is also in my domain. Then we know that range is all my y values. So I'm looking at the same points, but now I'm looking at the y-axis. So I see that this point is at the y value 1. So 1 is in my range. This point right here is at the y value 3. So 3 is in my range. And this point right here is at the y value 4. So 4 is in my range. Let's look at question 4. I have a list of ordered pairs. In my ordered pairs, I know that the input is listed first, my x is listed first, and that is my domain. So all of the first values are in my domain. That is -7, 9, and -6. That leaves the second numbers are my y values, all of my outputs, and that is my range. So 0, -3, and 2.5. I hope that is what you got, and let's move on to something a little bit more challenging. B says, consider a machine that exchanges quarters for dollar bills. Inserting $1 returns 4 quarters. So I think a lot of you have been to arcades before where you need tokens to play or have used some sort of change machine, but we should know that every dollar gets us 4 quarters. So in this machine, we input dollar bills. That is our input, and our output is the corresponding amount in quarters. And this is important to note, the machine only allows up to $5 at a time, so I can't put in more than $5. Question 1 says, is 7 a possible input for the relation represented by the machine? So am I allowed to put in $7? And the answer is no. We just said that my maximum amount is $5, so no. Seven is not a possible input for the relation because I cannot insert more than $5 at a time. This also means that 7 is not in my domain. If 7 is not an input, it can't be in the domain. My domain is all of my inputs, and if 7 is not an input, it is not in the domain. What about 350? Question 2 says, could 350 be a possible input for the relation? Well, my input is dollar bills. Can I make $3.50 only using dollar bills? The answer is no. I can only input whole dollar bills. So there's no way I could get 50 cents by using only dollar bills. So no. I cannot input coins, only dollar bills. So question 3 says, describe the domain. Our domain is dollar bills, but only whole number dollar bills, and we can't do any more than $5. So if I was going to list the domain, I would say I could put in $1, $2, $3, $4, and $5, but no more than 5. I could also put in 0, technically, by not putting in anything, because by not putting in anything, I will get the output of nothing, of 0. Now we're asked questions about the output. Is 8 a possible output for the relation? This is asking, is it possible for me to get 8 quarters? So think about, is there a dollar amount that I can put in to get 8 quarters? And the answer is yes. If I put in $2, that would give me 8 quarters. And so our range are multiples of 4. So let's use our domain. If I put in $0, I will get 0 quarters. If I put in $1, I'll get 4 quarters. If I put in $2, I'll get 8 quarters. $3 will give me 12 quarters. $4 will give me 16 quarters. And $5 will give me 20 quarters. That is the maximum amount of quarters I can get because I can only put in $5. Nice. The last thing we're going to look at for this notes is an actual expression. We've used expressions in this class before, and we're going to practice putting in x values to get out y values. So this is asking, what is the output if the input is 7? So they want me to input the value 7, and they're wondering, what am I going to get out? So they're asking me to replace x in the expression with 7. And then I'll solve. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 5 is 19. So if I input 7, I will output 19. Let's try another one. In B, it says I'm inputting -2. So if I input -2, what will be the output? So I'm going to replace x with -2 and solve. 2 times -2 is -4, plus 5 is positive 1. So 1 is the output if the input is negative 2. I know it's a fraction, but will you pause the video and try doing number C or letter C on your own? I believe in you, you got this. Pause the video and try inputting 1/2 into the expression. All right, I hope you tried it. If I plug in 1/2 to my expression, 1/2 of 2 is 1, plus 5 will get me 6. So 6 is the output for 1/2. And our last question, is there a limit to the number of input values that can be used with this expression? In our money example, our limit was $5. I could not put in more than $5 at a time. So is there a limit for this expression? And the answer is no. There's infinitely many numbers and infinitely many possible values that I can plug in for x. There is nothing stopping me from plugging in 10, 11, a million, a billion, 100. I can plug in anything for that x. So no. There are infinitely many possible values to use as inputs. And that is domain and range. So domain is all of my input values, and range is all of my output values. We'll practice this more in future videos, but please let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in class.